That started. Got the chat open. Like having two really big monitors is really nice. That I have two. I'm working on two somewhere between 4 and 27 inch. My monitors here at home are bigger than the monitors I have at work. Imagine what it would be like to work on a screen like this. It's huge. Right.
That would help.
Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 232, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We are back for a wonderful week of last week. But this is fun. Back doing. I like that. What have you been doing this last week?
Oh, a lot of stuff. Um, Started working out again,
Good.
so that's a good thing.
Huh?
Um, I say that, and then tonight I was drinking whiskey at work, so baby steps, I
Hey,
guess.
whiskey at work is part of working out because whiskey work working out all start with W's, so they all go together.
Right.
That is the logic of a 6-year-old, therefore it works.
Works for us, that's for sure.
You have the mentality. 6-year-old works perfectly.
Which I do.
Right? So are you going back to the CrossFit gym? Is that what you're doing?
Not yet. I'm just kind of doing my own thing right now, getting my body used to moving again.
Yeah.
My body completely disagrees with me that I need to do that, but that's the way it goes.
Just gonna have to do.
It's gonna have to adjust.
No, I understand what you're saying there because so the one of the things that I'm doing, I had started running and I had posted some stuff on that. Well, at elementary school where my kids go, we there were some parents that have boys needed wanted a program to kind of teach boys how to gentlemen, teach them about both being a gentleman but also being um, teaching them to push through problems, perseverance and grit, and setting goals and determination and not giving up, always working through your problems. Failure is just a step to something bigger. Because so many kids now uh, have this, and it's very prominent. I see it a lot with young boys 8 to 10, 11, 12 range, that just they feel defeated. They feel defeated, they give up, they quit, and don't work as hard anymore. That just wasn't flying with some of the parents. So we developed this program, Hour, we're teaching, and this Hour program involves teaching kids lessons, proving you can do anything, and combines it with training and running and physical activity. And the idea is that in this 8 week course, by the end of this 8 week course, these kids will be able to run a 5K. Not that they will be able to, they will run a 5K. So
Wow.
it's similar to a program that is for girls called Girls on the Run, which is a nationwide program. No program for boys. So a few of us come together for boys. So every Tuesday and Thursday, I go and run with me and a couple other dads, run with third and fourth graders in elementary school. Well, this Thursday, I will be teaching about proving overcoming obstacles. I have some great examples, people who have overcome extreme obstacles, like somebody you would know, Dennis Bird, football player for the Jets,
Yeah. Yeah.
was paralyzed on the football field and was able to walk for a little over a year afterwards. Told he was never going to be able to walk again, and he was able to walk out on the football field as for the coin toss a little over a year after, or a little less than a year after he was paralyzed. Awesome. That kind of stuff is what we get to talk about. And then I get to run. Little fun like running game. Really kind of cool.
It sounds really cool. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I like it. I think it's actually a lot of fun. Been good.
Very good. Because I just had dinner with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how America in general just needs to toughen up. So that's kind of what you're doing. I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the idea is you know, it, you see it a lot in society now. People that just can't handle situations, they give up too easily, they don't want to push through problems, and we're trying to teach kids that it's okay to have a setback in front of you. It's not the um, setbacks are just obstacles. Defeat is a choice that you make. You know, to be defeated is just you making that choice. And like
Yeah.
every choice has a consequence, and there are good choices and bad choices. It's it's a lot of fun. It's been fun. We've done this. We are on the, let's see, what would this be? This is like the fourth week, so been
Dang.
good. Been good. We only got a few more weeks left, so yeah, that's my exercise is doing that. You know.
Well, that's very cool. I mean, you're not only doing something good for yourself, but something really good for the next generation.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I hope it's good. And the idea is that we'll do this once in the fall and then once in the spring. And so this is kind of the first pilot program for us. We'll see how this goes, and we'll sit down after probably in end of October or November and sit down and kind of discuss what we thought went well, what we thought we could improve on, and get ready for the next one in the spring. So
Cool.
yeah. But enough of that stuff. We should probably talk about this. Well, before we get into this show, because I was thinking about this today, we have not pimped our good friends with the podcast arcade in a while. I don't feel like we've done it in a while, and maybe we have, and I just don't remember. Maybe it's just become second nature anymore. But
Yeah, but you just can't do it enough,
You
really.
can't. You can't because those guys are awesome. And Daydream Instruction Manual, I saw on Twitter that they put out a new episode that's like dim after dark, which I haven't listened to, but it worries me a little bit because usually the like after dark episodes like involve nudity, and I don't really want to see Eddie naked. Sorry, Eddie, not don't really want that, or Billy either. Ugh. Sorry, guys. We'll leave that for your wives. Don't give it to us in dim after dark. But yeah, go. You should go check out thepodcastarcade.com. Go show some love and support for all of our fellow Arcadians. Um, all the shows like um, gosh dang it, now I'm forgetting all kinds of stuff. Dim and Make Eternia Great Again and
Paranormal
Paranormal
Dads,
Dads.
Underground.
Yeah. So go check out all the stuff over there. I know I'm missing some Falcon Punch Thunder Dads. We forgot that one too. Um,
Yeah, can't forget those guys.
yeah, go check out thepodcastarcade.com. That'll give you all the information and it gives you little links and little you click on the arcade cabinets and it'll take you right to where you can find all the earhole glory you can handle.
Earhole Glory. That should be on a bumper sticker.
I don't even know where that came from. Um,
That's not bad. I'll give you that one.
every once in a while, I get a good thing. I have a gym that we can keep. That's one. I have a feeling like Eddie's gonna take and edit out that part of it and use it in something else.
That could end up being the title of this episode. So
Yes,
I'm going to write it down now.
there it is. It's happening. All right. So let's get to the topic at hand. And I was hesitant about this topic, but you
Okay.
convinced me. You convinced me. It was probably a couple weeks ago when we talked about doing this. You convinced me that I should check this out. And I'll go with my apprehensions first before we start talking about the show itself. The show is called Jack Ryan. This is the Tom Clancy TV show on Prime Video or Amazon Prime Video. I'm not really sure what it's called now. I think it's called Prime Video, but
Sure, we'll go with that.
whatever it is, it's the videos you get for free on Amazon Instant Video because you're a Prime member. So you have to be a Prime member to be able to see them for free. Otherwise, I think you have to pay for them. But anyway, this show, I am a big Tom Clancy fan. I did not bring up the box of books that I have of Tom Clancy, and I don't have any sitting out here because my kids are not old enough to enjoy those yet. So they are in a box in my basement, but I have read, I will say almost all of Tom Clancy's books. I will say I have read all of, I will say I've probably read 95% of the books Tom Clancy actually wrote. Uh, he did pass away several years ago, and some of the newer books that have come out now are written by either family members or authors that wanted to do, an homage to Tom Clancy and has approval from the family to use his name. So some of the books now that you see, like, I mean, this show is Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan or Jack Ryan Tom Clancy, something like it's got Tom Clancy's name in it somewhere. He didn't write or have anything to do with this because he's not alive anymore. Um, but I've read the book. I've read Patriot Games and Without Remorse and Rainbow Six and Hunt for Red October and all of those Clear and Present Danger. All of those books, I enjoyed them very much. I also enjoyed the the series that Tom Clancy co-wrote or started um, with a co-writer called Op Center, which kind of has a similar type. It's more of a special forces type feel, very more in line with Rainbow Six, but on a smaller scale. So I'm very familiar with the characters of the Tom Clancy books, and I've loved the books, and I've been very disappointed with the movies. So much so that I didn't even go see the last one that came out. I can't remember which one it was now. I'm pretty
Were
sure I
you
haven't.
even disappointed with Hunt for Red October's movie?
Hunt for Red October. Well, Hunt for Red October's movie was okay. I wasn't disappointed with it, but it was also my least favorite book. So I just took it for what it was.
Okay.
The book, I had a hard time getting into the book, and um, the books that Tom Clancy wrote that I like the most are the ones that have never been turned into movies because they don't involve Jack Ryan. Because if you read the books, Jack Ryan is a very special person, but he's a very smart person, and he's not a very he's not a special forces. He was never special forces. He was in the Marines, but he wasn't the elite of the elite. He was, if I remember right, he was medically discharged from the Marines. It was he wasn't that top-notch guy, and a lot of the movies make him out to be this super like covert ops type person, and he's not. Um, so the person in the books that did all the covert ops, even when Jack Ryan was there, a lot of the times it was a guy by the name of John Clark or John Kelly. He was a special forces. He was a Navy SEAL that had left the SEALs and was even. Um, if you want to read stories about him, you read the book Without Remorse. It tells you the whole story of. There is no Jack Ryan in that book. It is before Jack. I think it might actually be before Jack Ryan's born. Jack Ryan's parents are in the book, but just by inference, not by name. So,
Okay.
but that book is incredible, and that book is about that gives you more of that SEAL team, that special forces, that infiltrating, almost kind of like. Well, we'll get into that a little bit. Almost like some of the characters. There's a couple characters that came up in the TV show that I think might lead to some really good things down the road if what I'm seeing kind of has that same feel. So you recommended that I needed to watch this show,
I
and
did.
and for all those previous reasons, I was apprehensive. I wasn't really sure I wanted to watch it because I had disliked the movies so much. I watched this show. This show is amazing. This show is awesome. I give it my Tom Clancy fan 2 thumbs up. Go go watch this show. And you know, so what was it? As I mean, you haven't read as many of the books. You said previously that you've read Hunt for Red October, right?
I did.
But you've
The
seen all
the
the
funny thing
movies,
about
right?
yes, I saw well, I saw some of the movies, didn't know they were Tom Clancy because I was that much in the dark. Um, I read Hunt for Red October in a technical writing class in college
Oh
because
yeah.
the professor said his writing is so technical, it would be good exercise for us to read that book. So that's the only reason I read it. But I
Yes.
really liked it. I actually really dug that book. And then when I think the movie was already out by the time I read the book, and then I watched the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, why not Sean Connery?
Alec
Sam
Baldwin.
Neill,
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin. I mean, there were some good people in this movie, and
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. Um, the one thing I felt like from listening to you talk just now that they got right in that one was Jack Ryan was an analyst,
Yes.
not he was not the guy to do amazing things acrobatically or with a gun or anything like that. He just
Yeah.
was there to analyze what was going on and be smarter than the next guy, which that's what they did in that one.
Yeah, and they did get that
It,
right in that one.
yeah,
Did you ever see Patriot Games with Harrison Ford?
I did. I
See,
just didn't know it was Tom
and
Clancy.
that was another one that I felt was at least closer to, um, because I mean Harrison Ford gets his ass kicked in that multiple
Oh yeah,
times.
yeah.
Um, that one almost felt like it was a little bit more, but the book still, the ending for the book was a lot better than the ending for the movie. But that surprise, surprise, I mean, when does a movie really get the ending better? Um,
Not
but
often.
yeah, so you know, what I would say about, so what was it that you liked about this TV show, that kind of drew you into it?
Okay, so you kind of showed your tipped your hand on your apprehensions. Here were my apprehensions. There's one big thing that stops me from watching a TV show or a movie, and that is if it happens in the Middle East. And mostly not because it's Middle Eastern, it's mostly because of the religious aspect to it. People doing what they do in the name of God, and I hate that stuff. I
Yeah,
won't watch Red State because of that. Won't get into a big religious discussion here, but I find the lack of critical thinking on these people's parts infuriating.
yeah,
So I knew going in, where this took place and everything. It was like, I don't know if I want to watch this, but we decided to give it a shot. Another reason I almost didn't is because a lot of people gave it really negative reviews, called it dumb and all this other stuff. So um, I think if it wasn't for the fact we had nothing else really in our queue to watch, we probably wouldn't have watched it. But we gave it a try, and I just liked the way it was set up, and I liked the way there was even a suicide bomber, but they put a human face on that person and how much they really didn't want to be
yeah,
the suicide bomber, but it, for lack of a better word, peer pressure got him into it,
yeah.
got her into it. Um, with all that said, I think
Well,
the
and
main reason I
y-
liked the show was I connected with everybody. I
yeah,
connected with, this the show starts out, they get a new division chief or whatever you call him,
mm-hmm,
who didn't want to be there in the first place.
yeah,
Um, got off on the wrong foot with Jack Ryan, or Jack Ryan got off on the wrong foot with this guy, and it wasn't one of those, oh, you're super awesome, I recognize that, let's just take care of this. It had to be He had to be slapped in the face with the truth before he believed anything Jack Ryan said. And
yeah,
I felt that was so real. And with that and the whole showing us the other side of the fence,
yeah,
why this terrorist ended up where he is, was fascinating as hell. I think the most powerful scene in the entire show, little spoiler here for you, is there is a drone pilot who kills a guy, finds out later that wasn't the intended target. Guilt takes him over so bad that he goes to that country to apologize to his family. And there's this language barrier, so they can't understand what each other's thinking or saying, but you could tell they understood what was going on.
yeah. Especially at
And
the
I
end
thought,
when he walked away. Yeah,
yeah, and he tried to give him money, and the dad was like, "No, we're not taking your money." And then,
the little boy
the
wanted to
kid,
sell him eggs
so he gave him all the money for some eggs, and
and
then
didn't
that was
take the
okay.
eggs.
Yeah, that made it okay.
Yeah,
He served this guy tea. This guy is a mortal enemy, and they
yeah,
sat and had tea. And the only thing they had in common was they were both alive in the same place at the same time.
Right.
They couldn't speak to each other. They could not really communicate other than their emotional state. And I thought, that doesn't get any better than this. I don't know how you write a scene any better than they just did. And if you haven't watched the show, I'm sorry for spoiling that scene for you, but when it happens, when you finally watch the show, you'll see what I mean. That to me, that scene was the best one in the entire whatever they're at 8 to 10 episodes.
Yeah.
That one was amazing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That one was, but it was also kind of funny. Not funny. Funny's the wrong word. I thought it was interesting that that set of scenes, that situation was in this show at all, because that part of it had nothing to do with the main characters. It had nothing to do with Jack
Right.
Ryan. It had nothing to do with the main villain. It had nothing to do with anything. It was completely side and separate, all in of itself. But there's a small part of me that says the people who wrote this put that in there for a reason. If the people who wrote this and are putting this story together are putting together a story like Tom Clancy builds a story and they're trying to stay true to what Tom Clancy, the way he tells stories, that was in there for a reason. And with the second season now being picked up, confirmed that it's going to be picked up, and with as popular as this was, or as I mean, because I saw a lot of like good, critically acclaimed type things. People didn't like it, but the critics seem to like it, and the viewership of it I think has gone through the roof now. Once the word of mouth has gotten out and people are actually starting to watch it, but
Yeah.
the second season's already been picked up. I wouldn't be surprised if a third season is signed on before the second one even comes out. I can see that part of it. Something in there with that drone is going to be important down the road. You know what I mean?
Somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. On the surface, you could say that scene is in there because it's putting a human face to the people who live over there.
Right.
It's easy to sit over here and just say you hate all those people. You don't know anything about them.
Right.
I often, when we talk about, the hatred in the world, when my wife and I talk about it, I often said if people could get to know each other, they'd realize we're all pretty much the same.
Oh yeah.
We just
Oh
want
yeah.
to be left alone, be happy, be able to provide for our families. Same over there as it is here.
You're
And I
right.
felt like that scene, and maybe it is something greater down the road, but for this season, that scene existed so we could see they're just people.
Well, but
They're
what?
not sitting around burning American flags and hating on us.
Yeah.
They're just drinking tea and trying to the kids trying to sell eggs to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right. I think part of that scene in this season was the humanification. I don't think that's actually a word, but I just made it
It
up.
is now.
It is now. Um, Making them more human, making them feel more human, giving them that personal touch, allowing you to relate more to the people over there. But then I also think the emotional impact that drone pilot went through is is very important too, and
I
something
think
that
so
is
too.
going to get played on down the road and could end up being a um, I think it could be something that can be used in a future episode. But
Yeah, he could end up being American born jihadi. I mean,
yeah,
it could
yeah,
end up being that. And
right,
I I could see that. I could honestly see that happening. I could also see it being, even though the little boy got money for all his eggs and still got to keep the eggs, I could still see him being turned anti-American
mm-hmm,
on a dime
yeah,
if he's not already there.
yeah,
Because the one scene that got Jack Ryan where he is today, when he was still in the military, wasn't supposed to put that kid on the helicopter, put the kid on the helicopter. The kid brought the helicopter down.
yeah,
I think there's a parallel there,
Yeah, yeah,
but
oh yeah,
I
you're
don't know
absolutely
what they're
right.
going to do with it.
It's yeah. I mean, and that was the thing with this show. There was lots of parts of it that I thought were very impactful. Um, so one of the complaints that I had with the other movies were the way Jack Ryan seemed to be more Marine than analyst. Um, this show did an extremely good job of two things. One, he was a Marine with trouble. He was he was mentally not right. He had some of that post traumatic stress, um, that that the helicopter crash still lived with him, and they did a very good job of having that in there. And it even caused him to freeze up early on, and he got laid into that if you're going to pull your gun, you better be prepared to use it. Um, and but then it also did an extremely good job of showing Jack Ryan how naive he really was about how the CIA operated in the field and how it.
Yeah,
Um, so what I felt about this show as a whole is this show is not. What I was afraid this show was is that it was taking one of the books and just going straight from one of the books. This is not doing that. All this is a modernization of Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan was written. I mean, some of his Patriot Games was written in 1987. Hunt for Red October was 1984. So you're talking about late 80s, early 90s when a lot of his books were written, and these were about Russia and the Cold War. So much of it was about Russia and the Cold War. I think Patriot Games dealt more with the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. But the but a lot of his books dealt with the Russians and nuclear weapons and the Cold War frenzy that was there. And you can't tell a story like that anymore. It doesn't have the same impact. It if you were to try to do something like that now, if you were to try to take some of those books and turn them into TV shows or movies now, they just wouldn't work. They wouldn't have the same impact. So I thought this show did an extremely good job of modernizing the Jack Ryan origin story, I guess, and
yeah,
modernized it and left it with an ability to be able to keep going forward. I thought they did a really good job of showing Jack using Jack Ryan as the hero. He saves the day in the end, but he wasn't always right or the best. He wasn't always right or the best at what he was doing. He
right.
screwed stuff up a lot of times, stepped on toes, did things unorthodox, um, and I thought that was really great how they handled that. And that to me,
Yeah,
that's
he
Jack
was.
Ryan.
Yeah, he was right whether he was right or not
Yeah,
in his head, and plus being a Marine or whatever he was over there when they finally got back over there as him as an analyst, he couldn't let it go.
yeah,
I mean, his boss was basically the liaison to all the locals because Jack Ryan couldn't contain his hatred.
yeah, yeah,
He would just stare at them, and you could tell all he wanted to do was draw his gun and shoot him in the head. And it's like, this guy's helping you, but he couldn't let it go.
yeah. Well, in that moral ground that he stood on and refused to compromise from, and I think there's even a point where he has a conversation with James Greer, his boss, um, where him and Jack Ryan are having a conversation, and can't remember the wording exactly, but it was basically along the lines of Greer was basically you know you've got to do some immoral things uh, to achieve a moral victory, and you have to sacrifice some of those morals. And Jack Ryan's like, no, I don't. And
Yeah.
Greer's like, yeah, I know how you feel because I once felt like that too. And so it was great. That was that naivety that that naiveness that Jack Ryan had that was carried out through all of this. And I gotta say, Krasinski, right? That's his no, what
Yeah, John
John
Krasinski.
Krasinski. He was incredible. He was absolutely incredible. I,
He did a great job, and I was concerned, because I think most people know him more as Jim Halpert from The Office.
sure.
And if he just would have once just looked at the camera directly, it all would have been lost, you know.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Um, I guess he's aged enough that he doesn't totally look like Jim Halpert anymore, but still, you were just waiting for that moment for him to just get that childlike grin on his face and just look directly into the camera, and then somebody was going to pull their gun out of Jello or something. But to his credit, you did only think of those things when it was an extreme close up on his face, and then it's just in your face. There's nothing,
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh yeah, I know this dude. But the
Yeah.
rest of the time, you bought him as Jack Ryan, as the analyst, as the holier than thou persona that he put out there. So yeah, I like I said, it was so well cast and the acting was so well done that um, I got lost in the show a couple of times. It's you just get so buried, and the next thing you know, the episode's over. It's like that was an hour.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that
Yeah.
felt like 10 minutes.
Right. Well, and that was so here's the other thing about how good this show is. So I talk about trying to watch TV shows with my wife all the time, and she just she falls asleep during them. She doesn't make it through them. Uh now she I was rushing to get through all of these episodes so that we could actually um so that we could talk about this and I could have it all done before we started talking about this.
Right.
And so there was I started watching it and she was awake and it was probably, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and I started watching the first episode and I watched the first one and then I look, it gets over and I expected her to be asleep. And so I kind of look over to see if she's asleep and she looks at me and she goes, "What time is it? Think we get one more episode in?" I'm like, "Who the hell are you? Like, where's the pod? Because that's not right." And we ended up watching two episodes that night. And the next night, she's like, as soon as the kids were to bed, she's like, "You don't have to go downstairs to do anything, do you?" I'm like, "No, I was thinking about watching more Jack Ryan." She's like, yeah, let's do that." So, and she stayed
Nice.
awake for another couple. She's gotten, I think, four. I think she watched the first four episodes of the. Think it's. I want to say it's eight total episodes. So I think she's about halfway through, and then it got to the point where she was just too tired, and after staying up till 11:30 the two nights in a row watching Jack Ryan, she finally got to the point where she could not stay awake and was asleep before I even started the show. So I went ahead and kept watching it without her so that I could finish, and she hasn't finished it yet. But she's made the comment several times that she's pissed at me for finishing it without her. So the fact that she wanted to stay up and watch it, and the fact that she wants to still finish the series even after I've watched it, means that this show is really good because she doesn't watch TV, especially anymore. She falls asleep too early. So that's another sign for this is really good. So multiple thumbs up from everyone. Something else that I wanted to talk about this is I talked about the modernization of it. There were three characters in here other than Jack Ryan that made me excited when they showed up, and some of it was the fact that they didn't give much of their background that I thought was really good, and some of it was just because I love when they put things that are actually from the books that um, fit, and they didn't screw it up. The first one is Kathy Mueller, who is the doctor. In the books, she is a eye doctor, I believe, like an eye surgeon. I
Was
liked.
it I?
I think it is
I
eye.
thought I thought she was like
Hold on, now I gotta look it up.
dealing with diseases and stuff like that.
Well, it was in the movie, but I don't think it was in the
Oh, in the
book.
book?
In the book,
Oh, okay,
in
my bad.
yeah, she's a an ophthalmologist, a branch of medicine and surgery that deals with the anatomy, physiology, and disease of the eyeball and orbit. So that's what she was in the book.
Okay.
In the TV show, yes, she dealt with diseases, and I thought that was a very good change. I didn't I actually liked how they used that because it helped create that tension between her and Jack Ryan that I thought was really good. But I kind of got giddy when he met her at her dad's party because the moment like he said that she said her name, I was like, oh, that's his wife. In the books, they get married, and well, actually, in the books, I even think in the first book, timeline wise, they're already married. So it's you know, I thought that was great, and it was a great way. It was a great little change that they made, but it was one of those parts where it's like those Easter eggs when you in the Marvel movies when you see them and go, "Oh, that's awesome," and nobody else knows what you're talking about. That to me was that there. The other person was James Greer, who was the director that you talked about, station chief, whatever you want to call him, who came in and didn't really want to be there. James Greer is in the books. In the books, he was in the CIA in most of the books. Before he was in the CIA, he was a rear admiral, which I don't really know what that means, but I know it's a really high rank in the Navy. Um, and he is actually he's rear admiral in the Without Remorse book, which takes place before Jack Ryan is born, and um, he is he's kind of I want to say in I want to say it's the Op Center books or something along like he doesn't involve he's not really connected in the books to Jack Ryan specifically. He's more connected to John Clark and um but I thought it was really well how they took that and connected it together. I liked the fact that James Greer was in this, and the last person that was in the TV show that I thought was really kind of cool, and I only caught it after the fact when I started thinking about it. It was the Navy SEAL, or well, yeah, he was the SEAL commander that went on the operation to to basically try to save the sun in wherever they were at. He was the one that was running the mission. He was also with James Greer and in the base that got overrun when they had the main bad guy in for interrogation, but they thought he was just the bodyguard and not the actual bad guy. That was ambushed at the beginning. I want to say that's the first episode. You know which guy I'm talking about.
Yes, now that
Just
I think about it. Yeah, it
he's
took me a minute.
he's just this he wasn't in a big role in it, but he was in there multiple episodes. I couldn't actually find the name that he used, but I want to say at one point he is with Jack Ryan and James Greer when they go to investigate somebody's house, and he just gives them a name, and Jack just looks at him like, "What? That wasn't your name," and but just doesn't say anything and rolls with it. You see the look on his face. John Clark in the books, I think that guy is John Clark. John Clark
Oh yeah.
in Without Remorse. One, he was a SEAL team commander. Uh, he was um, John Clark in the books. He goes by John Clark. He goes by John Kelly. He changes his name constantly throughout the books, and they explain in Without Remorse why he does that. And that's a huge thing for him. Like that's a um, he that is how he survives in the world is by constantly changing who he is. I thought, and it kind of fit with the story. Like that character was doing multiple different things, but very on the high end special forces type stuff. I think that might be John Clark, which to me made me excited when the show ended. I was just like, ooh, there are so many different ways that they could take this with this guy. They could do some of my favorite stories, and they could maybe mesh them in with Jack Ryan and or do a spinoff. This could be even a plan for if Jack Ryan does well enough and runs 3, 4, 5 seasons with high praise. Maybe there's a spinoff that they can do with this character. Um,
Yeah, I could easily see that. I mean, he came off as a very scary dude, even though he had never had to show it.
yeah,
But the way he carried himself in that TV show is like, this guy knows a million ways to kill you before you even know he's mad at you. You know, he was
yeah,
one of those guys.
yeah, and that kind of mentality that he has or that he had in that show is very reminiscent of John Clark from the Without Remorse book. So, if if you like that kind of idea, read Without Remorse. It is by far one of my favorite Tom Clancy books. And then from there you can go into Rainbow Six because that's my second favorite one.
All
And
right, I may just do that.
and neither of those have Jack Ryan in it anywhere. No Jack Ryan. It's really more special forces type stuff. So um, yeah, but I just thought those three characters. There were some other characters that are similar, but those three characters I felt were the really big ones. They had a good impact, and um, I'm really kind of excited what the second season brings. And like I mentioned before, it has been confirmed, and there is no release date yet, but the speculation is August of 2019. So we're still
Nice.
a little less than a year away, but still way too long. Um, but since they didn't know they were gonna get season two, I think that's probably a good thing, and I really hope that season two, the buzz for that gets really good, and they sign them on for season three, and maybe season three can be less than a year afterwards. After season two, that would be fun. So
Yeah, maybe they can record more than one season at one time.
yeah,
That'd be cool.
yeah, that would be awesome. Um, one last thing to touch on this, I thought, I think, my opinion with the Tom Clancy stories and the way his stories were told in the books, they fit more with the technical way that he told stories. Like you said, you had a technical writing professor that wanted you to read Hunt for Red October because of the technicality to it. The
Right.
way Tom Clancy wrote his stories, I feel like they're better suited for TV shows than they are suited for a movie. Because if you think about it, this was I think it was 8 episodes. That's an 8 hour long movie. There,
Yeah, and it needed every minute of that.
yeah, that wasn't 8 episodes. That wasn't 8 1 hour movies. That was one 8 hour movie. There was no break in between. There was no break, between an episode. It was you could literally go from one episode to the next, and it would all. You didn't even need the credits and title scenes. It would have been, like I said, an 8 hour movie. And I think that is I think the Tom Clancy stories, I'm hoping that this spurs more of those to come because I feel like the TV shows are better suited for that. Your thoughts?
What's funny is when we were talking about the comic book TV shows, I complained about them not being episodic.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I think it's for me, it's the superhero thing that for me has to be that way.
Sure.
But the Jack Ryan thing, the all encompassing being an 8 hour movie, basically, I didn't mind. I actually enjoyed it. I do find myself um, wanting it to hurry up a little bit more because of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it didn't really bother me. It was like, oh, there's 3 more episodes to go. You know, it was almost like running laps, and you couldn't wait for the last lap. But
Yeah.
I still enjoyed it as a whole.
Right. Well, so there you go, guys. Jack Ryan on Amazon
Amazon
Prime
Prime.
Video, I don't, whatever you want to call it. It keeps changing its name all the time. It used to be Amazon Instant Video, and then I think they changed it to Amazon Prime Video, and now I think it's just Prime Video. I don't know. It changes on my Roku on like a monthly basis on what the channel is actually called. So much so that when my kids try to go find something on there, they're like, "Dad, where's the Amazon button?" It's on there. It's just called Prime Video now. Oh, it didn't look the same. I know they changed it. I can't control that, guys. Come on. What do you want from me?
This is happening. Live with it.
Right? Right? All right, everybody. I think that is a good place to put a pin in this. We will talk more about other fun stuff next episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to check us out on our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekvice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel on the Facebook page. That's the easiest way to do it. Just click on the YouTube on your left-hand side of our page. It'll take you right to all our videos. You can jump right to the YouTube channel from there. You can even subscribe right from Facebook page. So do that. Set up your notifications. Get notified when these videos go live. You can join us in the chat. Tell us how stupid we are and how dumb I sound. I like that stuff. So you can also follow us on Twitter. I've been trying to I at least retweet more stuff now. Try to be a little bit more active on there. Got a few things going up, like I don't know, maybe the Captain Marvel trailer that just got released.
Yeah, maybe.
Ooh, that looks awesome. So you can follow me at Geekvice. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. So yeah, and of course, as always, you can reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. You got anything else you want to throw out there before we
No,
shut it down?
I'm ready to shut. Well, so I'm learning Japanese, and I'm trying to keep a streak going. So I have to, as soon as we hang up here, do my Japanese lesson so I don't lose my streak.
Well, I think next week we're gonna have to talk about some of your Japanese. How about that?
Sounds like a plan.
There you go, everybody. Thanks for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next week.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.